And, we got the countdown, so I guess we are recording now.
Let's do it.
Always joined by our friend, Chef Brad Green. And today he's joining us from a slightly different location because it's the right time of year for hanging out by the pool, right?
It feels amazing. And my in-laws are in, and the dogs are everywhere, and my other kids back in town. So the house is a little hustle bustle. So I figured I'd bring it al fresco.
Works for me, and thankfully your oldest is back in town. He was a huge help for us this past weekend.
I was impressed with the pictures.
I was very impressed with the pictures. I was very appreciative. He did some good work there. How is his sunburn right now?
I think he was ill prepared. He's pretty crispy. You can't tell kids anything. You got to let them learn. His mom tried to send him with sunscreen. He's like, I don't need that.
How is al fresco for you today? This is like my second favorite time of the year.
I was just commenting last night that, I'm not a Texas native, but I've been here for 20 plus years, and this is the first time I recall in some time where we had a pretty mild summer leading into a pretty good winter. Nothing too harsh, but we actually had a true winter with a couple of hard freezes, and now we've actually had what by Texas standards I would call an elongated spring, which has been really nice. I'm impressed. I love this weather, and it's been like this for a week plus. It's so nice.
Yeah, it's been really sweet. I mean, this is the first Red River Riot that we've had in forever where the weather was basically ideal. I mean, usually it's decent spring weather temperature-wise. Usually we get lucky that we're not having to deal with rain and so forth. But typically, if that's the case, then we're usually up against some crazy winds. And it was not windy this past weekend, which that's an upgrade for the Red River Riot right there. So that all worked out super well.
I had an outdoor wedding that day, and
I'm getting
just like
cutouts from you if you can hear me.
Are you? Should I change my? Oh, where'd you go?
You are frozen on my end anyway.
Where'd you come from? Where did you go?
That might be a me thing. I'm not hearing anything.
Hello.
My upload's going slow again too. What the hell?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like we're experiencing technical difficulties.
Okay. I'm seeing you now. You see me fine?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
No telling. No telling. All right. It says you enabled low data mode. Everyone is still recording in high quality, but I'm not seeing your video. I'm definitely hearing the background noise on your end.
I'm not sure I'm a fan. I like to look at your pretty face. And she has this like real dainty voice, and all of a sudden she turns towards the forest and she goes, Kevin! Have you seen that video? That's all I could think about because I kept going, Kevin, Kevin. And all I could think about was that chick going, Kevin! She sounds like a just straight up construction worker. I'll have to find it and send it to you.
Yeah. I'm going to have to look for that one. No doubt about it. Oh, my gracious.
It's so good.
Well, we finally got our first expert edition up and running. And so far, getting some positive feedback on that one. So
very cool.
If when you get a chance to listen to it, I'm looking forward to hearing your debrief. I was pretty pleased myself how the pieces came together on that. I think Alex gave us a lot of good information last week, so I'm looking forward to doing more of those. So definitely, if you have people in mind on your end, that you think would be good guests along those lines, feel free to reach out to them and tap folks on the shoulder. I don't have anything else specifically lined up yet. One I'm working on. I dropped the ball on that. I had requested a chat a few weeks ago. Thought I hadn't heard back, and I had set up an email address just for Shiftless that I thought I was getting notifications on that I wasn't. So he had replied a couple weeks ago, said, yeah, I'd love to do that. And so I'm trying to get him going, set up now. Hopefully I didn't piss him off. But hey, it's what I do. It's what I do. What's going on in Brad's world these days?
I had an interview with Cross Timbers Gazette yesterday, and they sent me, they're going to run a hit piece on me, which hopefully is going to help boost my brand even more. I'm excited about that. So I was perusing that draft this morning before I got on this with you. And my in-laws are in town.
Maybe I'm off base, but my understanding is a hit piece is not a good thing.
Well, I don't. Maybe I misused the term.
They're
going to do a showcase piece. They're going to a highlight piece. They're going to run an article. They're going to make me look good. I don't know.
I'm just making sure, because I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong too. But my understanding of hit pieces, that's when they try to drag you down.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I probably misused it.
It's all good. It's all good. We'll find out for sure someday. Maybe we'll interview a vocabulary expert at some point along the way. Because I guarantee you, I use the wrong words on a very regular basis myself.
Me too.
How long are the in-laws in town?
I think they're leaving tomorrow. I think I'm going to make homemade pasta and meatballs tonight with my homemade Italian sausage and some of my cow that I got from right down the street.
So you picked up a neighbor cow somewhere along the way?
Yeah, I have a buddy that lives about 5 miles down the road. Actually, you know right where it is. Right down Strader, almost to 156. He's got a little place out there where he just raises, I think he does like 8 cows every season. And he basically just splits up the cost of the feed and the processing. And you can purchase half a cow or a full cow. I don't know that anybody took a full cow. But, and so I did it this year. I kind of jumped in, and so I have half of a cow, and I'm still trying to puzzle through what I'm going to do with most of it. And I've got a lot of ancillary parts that other people didn't want, and I said, I'll take everything.
Sure.
So I have hearts and liver and all kinds of random stuff. So I ended up with a bunch of fat that I'm going to render out for some tallow.
Nice.
I have obviously the majority of it is ground beef. I think it ended up with like 70 pounds of ground beef.
Keeping everything in a dedicated freezer for the cow, or just your normal freezer space, or remote location, or how does that work?
I don't keep anything in the freezer anyways. My freezer's normally barren. It's like a catch-all for nonsense. It didn't take much to clean it out. I think the only thing I ever keep in my freezer other than ice blocks was pint glasses, ice cream, and natto. That's it. So and I do put
Kevin's andouille.
Yes. Well, now my freezer's full of meat because I have andouille in there, and I have spicy Italian sausage, and I have half a cow. So, yeah.
All right. But when I swing by this afternoon, I'll make a little bit more room in there for you.
Okay. Yeah, please remind me, because I've been meaning to get that to you.
Hey, the pieces have not come together for us to meet up. I was really hoping to get that adventure ride in yesterday that we kind of chatted about a little bit, but I'll be honest with you, man, after Red River Riot, I was just wrecked. I
Yeah.
I think it was a combination of just the weekend itself. And I do love this time of year, but allergies are absolutely kicking my ass this year. I love me wildflowers. They're one of my favorite things in the world, but evidently wildflower pollen does not love me.
Yeah. I don't know. Here's something I'm truly not an expert on, but my allergies are awful almost year round, to the point where I don't ever notice when my allergies are messed up. I only notice
when you're
when
clear.
they're not messed up. Yeah. And I try to make it a point to spend as much time outside as possible, because in my mind it helps me get used to it. But that's probably not the case. But I would say that mine are starting to calm down. It seems like the pollen has calmed down a little bit, especially, we have a ton of oak trees on our property, and they are constantly dropping those little, I don't even know what you call them.
Jan calls them oak doodles.
Oak doodles, yeah. So that's been the bane of my existence with my pool and all my surfaces, my deck and everything else. And they have so much tannins in them. Goonie and I poured those concrete countertops around my pizza oven and stuff, and now they're just stained all up, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. Something I didn't anticipate. Even though I sealed my countertops, somehow the tannins just got into that. I told my wife, I said, maybe we just lean into it. I don't know. So
nature finds a way. Isn't that the line?
Jeff Goldblum.
According to my lovely bride, and I hope she's wrong on this, but usually she's not on these matters. Supposedly, the allergen thing actually goes the opposite way. The more you're exposed to them over time, the more allergic you get, as opposed to it's kind of a reverse thing. So things you didn't used to be allergic to, as you're exposed to them more, evidently people can become more susceptible or more sensitive to it. That
makes sense.
The way I'm acting, yeah, because my allergies are definitely a wreck in the last few years, when I used to be not sensitive to stuff at all. So maybe there's something there.
Yeah, I had a chef that I worked under years and years ago that was probably the biggest seafood fanatic I'd ever met in my life. He taught me more about seafood than I could have ever hoped to learn. And he had developed such a severe allergy to seafood that, like, when we were cooking, can't even remember, like 100 gallons of lobster bisque, and he had to leave the kitchen. He couldn't even be in the same room. And it pained, it was painful, because I can't tell you how passionate he was about seafood. He put on an oyster class for us, just us in the kitchen, and brought in, I want to say 20, 25 different kinds of oysters. And being from Louisiana, I grew up with Gulf oysters and was just like, I thought oysters were oysters. He's like, oh, kid, you've got something to learn. He brought in East Coast oysters and West Coast oysters. And at the end of that, I was like, man, I'm never eating a Gulf oyster again. And I don't, unless they're fried. I will make the exception for fried or stewed, but not on the half shell. There's way too many better oysters out there. And then the allergy thing too. Michael Hoyt and I were talking about poison ivy. He said that because I told him, I said, ever since I was a kid, I could just roll around in poison ivy and never be affected by it. And he said that goes away with age and exposure, is the best of his understanding. And I was like, well, I guess that might make sense, So Jan's probably right, but I choose to believe she's not in this particular instance. Denial.
Denial. I'm kind of on board with that myself, but it does seem like it probably a decent topic to try to wrangle an expert if we can. And the poison ivy aspect, that's a really good reminder. I think that's where we'll let the airplane go over. The poison ivy stuff. I mean, I think that's where Jan and I started having that conversation several years ago. Well, man, damn, I'm getting old because it was a long time ago now that I think about it. Both of us used to never worry about poison ivy, and then she started getting super, super sensitive towards it. And I mean, it was, she's to the point that she can't. She can't stand near poison ivy where the particles, whatever it is, are just blowing in the wind. She reacts to poison ivy not even coming in physical contact anymore, just being near it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I used to never have poison ivy issues, and now it's still, knock on wood, I don't get it bad, or haven't run into an instance where I get it bad. But anytime I'm around it, I'll get just a couple spots that pop up and just will not go away. They drive me nuts for weeks, sort of thing.
I don't think I've ever been affected by it, but my wife's the same way. She gets it secondhand.
Yep.
Like if I go on a ride or something and I have it on my skin unknowingly, she'll get it. Or she'll get it from the dogs, because, I mean, you've seen our yard. Invariably, there's going to be some poison ivy somewhere, even though I try to do my best to kill it off. The dogs will rub up against it, and they'll come up, rub up against her, and next thing you know, she'll have poison ivy, and she hadn't even been outside. Poor thing.
For numerous reasons, but we won't go there.
Blessed and cursed she is.
She's gonna have a handful this afternoon. So her folks and myself and Joey and the kids as well. So
actually, they won't be here. They're going to.
That's right.
Babes.
They're going to Babes. They're going to Babes.
Yeah.
Man, and that's one of those. Babes has never been a thing for me. It's never. More power to people that are fans. It's just never done anything for me. Actually, the other Babes outside of Roanoke that have the smoked chicken or whatever it is, sometimes that's pretty decent.
I'm with you on that one 100% because that's my favorite thing. But I know Roanoke is the original, but their lack of menu items is a turn off for me. In the same respect, I have to say that I like a streamlined menu, but knowing that other Babes have, what is it they don't have too? There's a dessert they don't have, coconut cream pie they don't have in Roanoke, I believe. And so the smoked chicken and the coconut cream pie are two of my favorite things they serve. So therefore, I'm kind of out on the Roanoke Babes. But
ooh, that's what. Okay. Not that I'm the type to ever tell you what to do, but I am the type to tell you what to do. When you do that fried chicken class, I'm there. I need to learn how to properly fry chicken because Babes doesn't, in my world anyway.
Well, I think they're a single batter, single fry. I think that the trick, well, there's so many tricks and there's so many different ways to fry chicken. And I've recently been delving into a lot of fried chicken recipes, boneless and bone. But I think the real trick is the marinade and the double fry. The first fry at 300 and the second fry at 375. I did recently learn, though, adding, and I'm not the science guy here, but adding baking soda, small amount of baking soda to your marinade somehow breaks down those proteins and causes the proteins to actually hold more moisture, much like brining. And it just creates a better mouthfeel. You don't get that dry, stringy chicken chew. You get that luscious, like juicy pull, and then partnered with that double fry, you get that super crispy skin, and then you take a little bit of your wet marinade and put it in your dry ingredients, so you get those little craggles. So you have those extra little craggles on your fried chicken. All of those little things, just add up to make that really good piece of fried chicken. But, Gage recently retired from Cane's when he moved back from California, so I think he's got some tips on frying chicken as well.
Okay, I'm typically I'm not a Cane's fan myself. I prefer Lane's to Cane's.
Yeah. Lane's was the original, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's founded like 3 years earlier.
That's my understanding, and we are just a couple of idiots here, so sometimes we get our facts wrong. So hopefully nobody holds this against me from Cane's. My understanding, my recollection is that Lane started it, and then whoever started Cane's was a Lane's employee that basically just set up across the street. That's my understanding of the process. Could be wrong. That's the way it was explained to me at some point along the way. I know I prefer Lane's myself, not knocking Cane's.
Yeah.
It just comes across as bland to me. There's not much there.
Yeah. The sauce and the bread are the only things that are they're redeeming qualities to me.
They do a damn fine Texas toast. I will give them that. I'm a fried chicken snob, though. I gotta admit it. That's one of those that my grandmother made just the best fried chicken on earth. But I wasn't cognizant of the process back when she was frying chicken, so I don't know what she did that made it so good. But she was also one of those, she didn't tell anybody what she did to make it so good. So it was kind of a family, not even a family secret, a her secret sort of thing. But she did the breaded as opposed to the battered chicken. So I've always leaned towards the breaded over a battered chicken.
Well, you got to think our cooking styles have transformed over the years, and we've been indoctrinated into so many nonsensical food items, if you will. Like, I guarantee you, almost without a doubt, that she probably fried her chicken in lard.
Oh, very definitely, yes.
Yeah, automatically just brings that flavor up instead of using some over-processed seed oil, canola or vegetable or, whatever. So, I mean, that's just a leg up within itself. And then you talk about what were chickens when you were a kid. We didn't have all these, mass-produced, crazy chickens that are just pumped full of stuff. And then, a lot of people don't realize when you buy chicken nowadays, if you just look at the package, it'll say it real small. And I try to steer clear of it as much as I can with almost everything. But they'll do what they call a solution tossed. So basically what it is it's a chemical-laden brine that forces that chicken to retain fluid. And so if you think about it, even if they toss it in something that's pennies and it takes on 10% more weight, that's 10% more they can charge you for. Same thing with shrimp. They do a tripolyphosphate toss on shrimp and scallops and all those types of stuff to force them to hold fluid so they weigh more.
They weigh more.
So they can charge you more.
Yep.
Yeah.
We gave up buying chicken a couple of years ago. We just couldn't find a decent chicken anywhere on the regular basis. But we ran into some stuff during all the COVID crap, and that's when they started having supply issues with poultry or whatever. I can't remember the details. I try to erase all of that, but somewhere along the way, poultry became scarce or whatever else. But when we did find it, we had this weird thing that every time we got fresh chicken and tried to prepare anything, we were just like instantly invaded with flies. It was the weirdest damn thing. It was actually kind of gross. So
yeah,
I don't know. It was weird. And none of the chicken tasted good anyway. And it wasn't. I mean, sometimes we'd get it from Kroger, sometimes we get it from Winco, sometimes we get it from Sprouts. I don't think we ever went to Walmart in those days, but who knows? I guess Winco's Walmart.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
Is it?
That's what somebody told me. And hey, we're idiots, so maybe I'm wrong.
My whole thing is I try to get the cleanest chicken I can get. I'm not a big chicken guy anyways. The main thing I buy chicken for is we buy boneless, skinless chicken breasts because my kid, the oldest one that's here now, he loves buttered chicken or vindaloo, whatever you choose to call it.
Okay. I'm on board with that logic.
Yeah.
Let me know the next time you make that.
well, I'm actually planning on making some today, I believe. I don't know if I'm going to make it today or tomorrow, but either way.
What we were talking about at some point along the way was that adventure ride I was shooting for yesterday for us that didn't come to pass. Man, that's my biggest frustration the last few days, though. Is I was on such a good run of riding the bike every day, and I don't think I've ridden anything since Thursday, and I've just felt completely wiped out and uninspired to ride. I'll probably, after we wrap this up, try to do a smart bike Zwift ride just to turn the legs a little bit today before I head over this afternoon. But yeah, I'm going to get out and about tomorrow, one way or another. Got to figure out what that looks like, assuming my wife lets me. But
yeah, take advantage of this weather, man.
Exactly.
But I'm sure Red River Riot, there's so many pieces and parts that people don't even understand that goes into that have you so distracted heading into that event. And I feel certain that you get as much of it handled ahead of time as you can and lined out and secured and all that stuff. But still, there's so many last minute details and, stuff that escapes. And I hear from Gage that you were doing a lot of running around yourself, as you always do. Did you have any major issues this time? Were your signs left intact?
That's an excellent question there. So picked up all the arrows on Sunday. So that was, that basically Sunday was tied up with that, and only had 2 missing, which for that area is extremely rare. Something I don't. Go ahead.
So I do have a question for all those listening. Are those arrows, if captured in the wild, are they still worth a free beer? Because they used to be.
I will say yes. I will.
Okay.
I will say. I will say yes. I will. Okay. I will put a string on that. I will put a caveat on that.
A cap.
Yeah. There. I do. I do know. And well, this actually, particularly from this Red River Riot area. There are literally dozens of those arrows missing over the years. So if somebody comes to me with a stack of 200 arrows that they've been collecting and trying to disrupt our events, they're not going to get 200 beers from me. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah, if I was sitting on a stack of those, I would dole them out one at a time. I would play my cards smartly,
but
play my arrows smartly, as it would be.
Yeah, that's been unfortunately that's been a regular feature of the Red River Riot for some time. That's probably our courses and markings that get messed with the most for whatever reason over the years.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, 1 year it was really, really bad. Somebody was literally out and about on those roads all night long because we had finished marking at like 9 o'clock the night before. And by 6 o'clock in the morning, a bunch of our arrows were gone. And they weren't just taken down or they were gone. So somebody had gone through the trouble of following the entire route all night long. That's a lot of work just to be a pain in the ass. So whatever that's all about. But this year, we only had 2 arrows that were missing on Sunday. One of the arrows is in a traditional spot where they're always gone. So I'm sure it's somebody that lives right there at that corner. And the other one, it was in a very remote spot that only the long route riders were going to. So most of them are pretty self-sufficient. So I don't believe any of that caused issue for us. So that part
Speaking
of
which, that was a good race this year. The long route looked like those guys were killing it.
They proved their mettle. There's no doubt about it. Austin, Matt, and
sub 6
Patrick,
hours.
They killed it. 200K in that time frame, and not an easy 200K by any stretch of the imagination. It was. Go ahead.
And what was the finish gap between Matt and Austin? I didn't look up the official results.
Man,
you know offhand.
Now you're asking a tough question. Not huge. Bear with me a moment here.
And I heard Austin went down at one point too.
I think everybody took a tumble at one point or another.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, and I communicated with Stephanie as well, and she said that there was a wreck or something, and she got gapped and lost contact with the front group.
So Austin finished in 6:01:36. Matt finished in 6:03:48.
Okay.
Patrick at 6:17:51. Our first female was Kelly. She did 7:10. Victoria 7:44, and then Carolyn 8:23.
Still moving.
Not shabby. The I'm gonna ruffle some feathers here. Those longer distance riders, they get it. They know what, for lack of a better term, I think I've thrown it out to you before. They get the spirit of gravel, whatever that loose term may or may not be. A lot of the 100K racers, this might be their only gravel event of the year, one of just a couple. And they're coming at it from, a lot of the 100K racers were coming at it from the true racing perspective, used to crits or road racing or cyclocross racing or more traditional sanction type racing events. So they don't necessarily latch on to gravel being a different mindset, for lack of a better term. And I'm not trying to paint it that it's better. It's different is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So lots of those folks, we'll get some feedback from them along the lines of, well, why do you do it this way? Why don't you do it that way? It's like, well, because this isn't a crit, or whatever sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's more relaxing to hang out with the 200K racers. So hopefully I can convince some of those 100K racers that are at the front of that field that they really should test themselves and try to do 100 miles or 120 miles as opposed to, knocking out 100K in 2 hours, 2.5 hours and hopping in the car and going home. It's like, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the party. That's what we're here for. And you can definitely prove how badass you are as well without, whatever. I'm getting on the verge of ranting here. I probably shouldn't do that.
And I can't imagine finishing at 4R with that great vista and great venue and just getting in your car and driving home, you know, not hanging out and enjoying A, the weather, B, the scenery, and then, you know, the winery. So
I think a lot when that does happen, it's just because, like I said, it's people that aren't used to the gravel scene per se, and they don't even have any expectation of anything like that. When they expect gonna cross the finish line and we're gonna do podium pictures within 3 minutes after that, and then I'm gonna hop in the car and go home, because that's their normal MO when they do races and events. And over the years, we've done a really good job of bringing some of those people into this, you know, slightly different discipline, and they're appreciative of it. I do lose track myself sometimes that, you know, every time we do one of these, we're bringing new people in that aren't used to the way we do things. So that's something I need to be a little bit more cognizant about, and maybe share a little bit more of that information along the way.
yeah,
But it, you know, all in all, and I don't want to paint the picture like we had a bunch of whiners and complainers. It's not like that at all. But when we do have whiners and complainers, they're not the 125-mile racers, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
right. What was your total overall lineup this year? How many did you have show up on the line? Do you have a number on that?
I think we were in the neighborhood of 350 or so.
Very nice.
450 that had signed up, and we did it. The way we had it set up this year, it was a Club Spinistry benefit for a very long time, where lots of those people got a free entry if they were Club Spinistry members. And we knew going in that would probably lead to a little bit higher than normal no-show rate. Like, typically it's in the neighborhood of 10%. If we have 400 people that sign up, 40 don't show up. And if it's bad weather, that number goes up. Perfect weather like we had, that might be 5 to 10% no-shows. So we were probably in the neighborhood of 15-20% no-show. Actually, now that we're talking, I need to analyze that a little deeper to see who our no-shows were. My guess is going to be the highest amount of those will be people that signed up for a free entry and didn't have any skin in the game. So it was really easy for them to go, I'm not feeling it today, I'm not driving to Munster, or they signed up early in the process expecting to get all trained up and everything, and life happens and they don't get their fitness levels to where they want. And so it's real easy. Hey, I didn't, spend $120 on a registration, which we don't charge $100, but that's a different thing. I don't have $50 in for a registration fee, so I can just not go, and no big deal. So I need to look at those numbers to see how that works, and that's part of the process of this Grand Club Spinistry experiment of ours. Our goal is to hopefully get to the point where our membership is big enough that we can always just offer all of our events free to Club Spinistry members. But it's one of those things that, if we're doing that and we have 300 people sign up and only 100 show up, that becomes counterproductive very quickly. So we'll have to look at that, see how that works.
I am interested in following all that, because I love how your mind operates. We talked about this when we were out scouting, how you're constantly trying different stuff, and obviously you were challenged during COVID, had to pause everything. And then even when you came back on, had to figure out how to navigate that. And then just kind of identifying what works and what doesn't work. It's always been interesting for me to see how you pivot, if you will, and change with the times and change with the scenery. And we obviously talked about how gravel's not going away, but how we're losing gravel here in the DFW area, even where it was prevalent and stuff. So it's always been interesting as an observer to see how you're expanding and moving and putting together these. I love the establishment of the long routes, and I've yet to do Race Across Texas, and I'm mad at myself every year that I don't do it, because it's such a bucket list item for me. But and then I'm obviously intrigued with your north to south route too. Or what are you calling it? What's the name of it?
We call it the Tasha Heritage Trail. Tasha
Heritage
is the Caddo word for friend or ally, and it is the origin of Tejas, which became Texas. So Tasha is the origin word for Texas.
Very cool.
So I'm super excited about that route. Don't get me wrong. I love my rat route. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That means a lot to me at a very personal level. And there's parts of it that are just absolutely fantastic and amazing. But that route was put together specifically to get from point A to point B in the best way we could fashion, for as much gravel as possible, throw as much scenery in the mix as possible. But the reality is, the areas of Texas it goes through, there are pockets of really cool things to see, but there's not stretches of it, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So you have to earn your payoff, your Vista views and the red roads or whatever else going up the Cap Rock. You have to you put in the miles to earn those bonuses. This Tasha Trail, man, it's miles and miles of continuous good stuff with lots of great stuff in the mix as well. So for an end-to-end route, I mean, nothing's perfect. You still have to connect the dots. You still have to get from point A to point B, but it's on a smiles per mile basis, I think it beats the rat by a tremendous amount, quite frankly. But that's what we're gonna determine. The stuff we've verified in the truck, once we got the bikes on it, it's like, well, this is good, but it could be better. And so that tells us, hey, we wanted to look at this one little section a little bit differently. And because we looked at that, it's like you take something from a B- to an A, and it's really cool. It's really cool. Enough of that, because this isn't meant to be a Spinistry commercial by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I wasn't trying to take it there. I think we're just talking about Texas cycling.
There you go. And
who covers more of Texas and cycling than Spinistry?
Who knows? There's lots of people doing lots of things out there. That's the big thing that I really get a kick out of from gravel in general. And that's when we were talking earlier about the racers that come to the Red River Riot that don't do a lot of gravel events. That's one of the big disconnects, because they're used to, well, this is the way we do things. This is the way it's done from this event to that event. And so once you start getting into truly sanctioned events or organized events along those lines, they become somewhat cookie cutter in a way. To me, one of the grand appeals of gravel is that each event is completely different. Each promoter does things their own way. So if you're wanting an event that is specifically catering to the highest end racers, there's somebody that's doing that. They're gonna make it look as pro as they can with banners everywhere and whatever else. But if you're looking for something that's just a personal challenge, even if you're one of the highest level racers out there, if you're looking for something that might be a challenge beyond what you're used to, there's going to be events that are built around that. If you're wanting a bucket list event that hey, I can blast this out on social media and tell everyone I went here and did this and post my Instagram pictures, there's going to be something that's a good fit for you. Or if you're like, I just want the best bang for the buck, spend as little as I can, and have a story I can tell for the next 20 years. There's somebody that's going to be able to suit that as well. That's the beauty of gravel. That's what I consider the true spirit of gravel that a lot of people can't seem to wrap their heads around. And it gets frustrating from my perspective sometimes. And I'm ranting again.
I do have one more question about rat, though. We were talking about losing gravel over, how long's rat been going on now? 8 years?
Since 2014, so whatever the math is on that.
I'm bad. 9 years. This will be the 9th year, right?
Sounds right.
So how much gravel have you lost on that route? Or dirt? I would imagine none of the dirt's changed, really.
Well, we don't. I'm going to disagree with you there.
Okay.
Some of the dirt has changed, but then it's changed back, so it can go back and forth. It's hard to quantify that because we've kind of evolved the route over the years as well. Yeah. So like in 2014, I want to say it was like an 850-mile route, something like that. Less than 900.
That sounds right.
Less than 900. I know that. And our first couple years, our point was to showcase the Northeast Texas Trail, the Caprock Canyons Trail, and as many state parks as possible. So we kind of routed along those lines. For a number of reasons, after the first couple years, we actually didn't want to feature any of those things, quite frankly. We still swing close to state parks for people that want to utilize those facilities. But generally speaking, the problem with state parks in Texas is if you're using that as an overnight endpoint, most of the Texas state parks aren't anywhere near amenities of any kind. So you have to stop in a town 20 miles away to load up all your food and everything for your overnight stay at a state park. Or you have to plan to go 20 miles after you leave the state park to get a decent breakfast the next day or whatever else. So that was an issue there. We found that the Northeast Texas Trail was not anything we could rely on any aspect at that time of the trail being usable. And there was no way to have current information on a regular basis for that.
Has that gotten better or worse?
Better for parts, most of it. Still bad in other parts. Man, that there's a whole episode around the net somewhere down the road that we should probably delve into. And the Caprock Canyons Trail, there were other issues with it that made it problematic. The main one being that basically for us to point people to that trail, even if we weren't utilizing the park ourselves or anything like that, they wanted basically a special event permit, even if we just were having people use the trail. It's like, no, well, they're all, we're going to have like 6 people a day going down that trail, and they all have state park passes already. Well, no, this is an organized event, so you have to have a special event permit and all this sorts of stuff. It's like, well, the hundreds of dollars and amount of paperwork that requires when it's really not meeting even your own definition of a special event.
Right.
It wasn't worth the bureaucratic mess that it was. So it's easier just to send people down the county roads. And the reality is the red roads are a lot more impressive than the Caprock Canyon trails too. So that was a win-win ultimately.
The elevation's what's impressive at Caprock Canyon, but I get that. Is that more of a money grab on their side, or is it just
I don't want to
power?
I don't want to paint it. it's it's the way bureaucracies work. It's the way government agencies work. And it's just the way the Texas State Parks system was. Yeah. It may be different now. It's like this was several years ago, and things have shifted. But like even things like that are things that aren't. They're interpreted different ways by different rangers or different parks or different superintendents and things like that. I went to one park one time talking to have basically the same discussion. It's like, hey, we've got a group of people that were wanting to camp here as a group, and it's just our club members, and we're going to go out on a bicycle ride, but and one ranger at the front desk is like, okay, no, that's just a regular group thing. You can get a group campsite and this and that. It's all good. Mm-hmm. And the other one was like, no, this is actually a special event because there was structure to it. So just because there was some sort of, we're going to meet at a time and do stuff in a prescribed way. The other ranger was saying that's a special event, so we have to go through all this other paperwork and pay these additional fees and things like that. It's like, even the rangers don't know how to interpret those guidelines in the same park. So how am I supposed to know and prepare? So quite frankly, it's just easier for me to avoid state parks at this point.
Yeah, that's a shame too.
Yeah, it is. It is what it is. All right. Well, I need to get in my workout and do some other errands and things like that, because I'm coming to see your smiling face in a few hours. Okay. Is Gage around this afternoon, or is he going to be off with the family?
I think he's going to be off with the in-laws at Babe's.
Okay. I will pass his stuff onto you for you to pass along as well. And
perfect.
I will bring a cooler for my andouille as well. So there's a reminder. Don't let me forget my andouille.
I will not. We should both set a reminder in our phones.
That's a good plan. All right, sir. I am going to let you go now. Appreciate the time.
All right.
And like I said, if you have ideas for guests of your own, feel free to reach out to anyone and start making arrangements along those lines.
I think we can talk offline, but I definitely have a mutual friend of ours that I think we should have a discussion with just about the current status of racing and the climate in Texas. Mr. McAfee would be a great person to sit down and chat with.
Man, that could go on for hours and hours and hours.
There would be no lack of content for sure.
All right, let's plan on that. I'll see you soon.
Okay. All right, later, brother.